My name is m0yGbjlBKEg. I am by vocation a martial artist. I teach ancient and contemporary African fighting sciences. And the lecture that I'm going to give this evening is particularly on the sacred mushroom as an African entheogen. The reason why I emphasize African entheogen is because in the literature for the last 40 years it said that Africa was sparse in hallucinogenic compounds. So as usual, they kind of try to divorce Africa from having anything. They basically deal with South and Central America as far as entheogens and how they're spreading out. But over the last 40 years, they found that dealing particularly with the sacred mushroom, that the oldest records of ingestion of the sacred mushroom are in Africa. And Africa has many thousands of entheogens that are part of the fauna and flora of the continent. So we're going to get started. African entheogens. What does entheogen mean? Entheo, in means inside. Theo is the deity, and gen is to generate. So actually what entheogen is or means is to generate the god or the deity within. I don't personally particularly like that term. It was coined because people who were in the actual community deemed psychedelic had too much baggage along with it because of the 1960s, and they tried to move away from psychedelic. Psychedelic, I actually like better. It means mind manifesting, to manifest the mind. So African entheogens towards an organic singularity. There are a couple of singularities that are in the midst of taking place. And what a singularity is a event that has no precedent, of which we can't see the outcome of. Inside of a black hole, the physics inside of a black hole don't relate to contemporary physics. Things happen outside of the box, and so they term that singularity. Something like the Big Bang would be a singularity. For no reason, without precedent, in an unflawed nothingness, an explosion occurred, and everything that happened since then, being us and the worlds and stars and galaxies, came from that one singularity. So we're talking about an organic singularity because you have certain factions who are pressing for a technological singularity. In other words, they are pressing for singularity to happen through technology. That is through the merging of human and machine, or either being able to create a machine that is cognizant of its own self. Creating in real time a virtual super being or a godlike being out of technology, whom human beings would either merge with or utilize that godlike being to help the earth and the people on the earth move forward. You know, that's kind of difficult because if you have a super godlike being, it'd be pretty hard to control that super godlike being since it would be smarter than you. So trying to coerce it into helping would be kind of difficult. So the name of the topic this evening is African entheogens towards an organic singularity, but we're going to deal specifically with the sacred mushroom. We're going to deal with two mushrooms, basically the blue mushroom and the red mushroom, which are both found pretty much on all continents. The blue mushroom, the psilocybin mushroom, is pan-tropical. It's found in tropic regions on cow dung in many parts of the world. It's found in Thailand, it's found in Australia, it's found in Africa, it's found in South America, it's found in the Americas. It's probably, if you got some cows around here, out here now. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about its history, its use, its contemporary use, and how this is a paradigm shifting relationship that is now in 2012 something that is needed by those people who have reached the age of majority, which is 18, not before then. Since it is a compound that is rated by the United States government as Schedule 1, meaning it has no, when they put it together, Schedule 1 means that it has no medical uses whatsoever. It is looked upon in the same vein as heroin and cocaine and crack and things like that, as far as its scheduling, not as far as what it does to you or for you. It was just lumped into the drug laws along with many things that happened during the late 60s and early 70s. So let's start moving into this. The reason why I have this slide up is because we were talking earlier. Mushrooms are perpetuated by spores. Spores are like the seeds. Spores approximate the hardness of metal. It is one of the hardest things in nature. They can percolate from planet to planet and from solar system to solar system with solar winds. In other words, if you had a sun that exploded and there were spores on the earth, and say those spores were covered with rocks or molten rock or something like this, those spores could survive in that rock, and when they're blasted out into the solar system, if they can survive going to another wholesome environment, those spores could then, if they have moisture, which is one of the prerequisites for life, water, if they have liquid water, and an environment from which they can grow as far as temperature and things like that, they will sprout and grow. So I put this slide up to say that mushroom spores are an organic technology created by who knows what, when, or where. That is an informational source, an informational structure. It holds information. It is like the, some people may be familiar with the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records is a playoff of the Acacia Records, or the Records of Acacia, which contain the same compounds as the mushroom, but it's locked in side of the acacia and unusable by human beings. Mushrooms are usable by human beings without an alchemical process to unlock them. The Akashic Records is unlocked by the utilization of other compounds along with it so that you can use it in your body system. The place that we're going to be talking about particularly this evening is the Sahara, and particularly in present-day Algeria. Over the last 2 million years, the Sahara, or Africa itself, is becoming drier and drier and drier. In the beginning, Africa from the top to the bottom was a great rainforest, jungle-like, great trees, cedars and conifers and things like this were all over the continent. But as the continent became drier and drier and drier, the trees receded and produced on Earth something that had never been on Earth before, grassland. And on grassland, you had to, as the human family, men and women, children, had to change our dietary regime. In the beginning, it was in the early stages, trees were very close. Food came from the trees. We were vegetarian. It basically had a mono diet, and food was readily available. But then the drying made the trees sparser and sparser. Grasslands shot up. You had to have certain adaptive advantages to be able to survive in that type of environment. In other words, bipedalism, binocular vision, upright stance, because if you have 3 or 4 foot high grass and you stooping down, or you're on all fours or something like that, you're going to be eaten very quickly. what helped and adapt human beings to be able to learn how to hunt and then gather in an environment that was new was those particular things like binocular vision and upright posture. You could look up over the grass and say, okay, we're not going to make it to the mango tree because there's a lion there. We have to wait till the lions leave, then we can go and try to get a mango. But the trees start to receding further and further away. And so the dietary regime changed. You had to look for new things to eat, new insects, new food stuff, roots, tubers, these type of things. And then you have to expand your hunting ability, because in the beginning stages, man's hunting was very crude, and you were more likely to be eaten by something as you were to get something to be able to eat. So these type of things came about because of the drying of the Sahara. Man's and woman's relationship with cattle is part of the whole area that we'll be talking about this evening. Because the mushrooms that we're talking about, the sacred mushrooms, grow on cow dung. They're called crophilic. In other words, they're dung-loving mushrooms. You have wood-loving mushrooms, you have grassland mushrooms, you have mushrooms that eat plastic, you have mushrooms that eat oil, you have all types of mushrooms. There are literally thousands and thousands of types of mushrooms. But there are only certain ones that are good to eat, certain ones that are good for medicine, and certain ones that are good for your spiritual development, as they say. So these mushrooms like to grow on cow pies. At a place called the Tassili Plateau in Niger, in Algeria, they have a series of labyrinth caves. Inside of these labyrinth caves, ancient people drew on the cave walls about their experience and the things that happened during their lifetimes. This particular picture that we're looking at, you see you have humanoid figures, proto-cattle, but the heads on the human beings are what you would think misshapen. I don't know any people that have heads like that. But what they were depicting, or what they were trying to depict, was that they had ingested the mushroom and they looked at one another and their heads looked like mushrooms, because they were looking in a heightened state of awareness at one another and showing the relationship of what they saw between the cattle, the cow dung, the mushrooms, and the heads of the people who had ingested the mushrooms by having mushroom heads. This one, bigger there. Okay, here we have this one is called the dancing shaman. These shaman with mushroom heads are dancing with mushrooms in their hands. And this is all depicting what they saw in heightened states of awareness, or what you call novel states of consciousness. Consciousness that doesn't reflect the three-dimensional consciousness world that we exist in most of the time. This is the mushroom that many believe is the actual genus of the mushroom that is the one that they used in ancient times, and it's called psilocybin meri, or psilocybin merrii. And this actual genus of mushroom is the one believed to be ingested at that time when the Sahara was still green. Pliny the Elder, who was a Roman historian, talked about the Sahara, and that it was the breadbasket of Rome. It moved through the food produced there, the Roman army, to be able to move and conquer the world. So we know even up to about 2,000 years ago, parts of the Sahara were still green. The desert encroaching into many different lands on the African continent who butt up against the Sahara actually produced civilization. Brother talked about the Karamanti people. They were at one time in the Sahara until it became so dry that it was no longer habitable, and then they moved into other places. This is what created ancient Kemet as a civilization. Kemet was built upon the Nile River and the inundation period, where the Nile would flood, and when the water receded, it would leave silt on the banks of the Nile, and that's where they would plant and be able to grow their food. So this was what made the river sacred, because you could produce food from it. But prior to that, you didn't have to go to the Nile Valley to produce food, because all over you had water, rivers, tributaries, lakes, streams that were available for people to be wherever they basically wanted to be. But as the desert started encroaching, it drove people from the desert lands into areas where there was water. This happened around the Tigris Euphrates, it happened around the Jordan, and it happened around the Nile. So people included themselves into city-states. This figure is called the bee shaman. And shaman, the term shaman comes from Siberia. Up until a few years ago, everybody who was not a Jewish rabbi, Christian priest or preacher, or Islamic imam, they were called witch doctors, hoodoo doctors, root doctors, medicine men and women, things like that. Now the colloquial, or the term that's used now that is to be more respectful, is shaman. So anybody not doing Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and are dealing with spiritual matters are called shaman. But the term shaman comes from Siberia. And in Siberia, the shaman, who are the spiritual people of that area, you know, what they do is they wear red and white, and they carry red bags with sacred mushrooms in them, and they do spiritual work. Sometimes they ingest the mushroom, sometimes they give it to the person they ingest, sometimes they both ingest it. But what they do is they take this red bag and they go down the chimney of the house and they dry their mushrooms in socks in front of the hearth, and the colors of the shaman are red and white. And of course they have reindeer. So we'll get into that part of the story later. The previous slide was a bee shaman, and the reason why the shaman had a bee head, this one is actual picture on the cave wall. Why they had a bee head is because when you have a scarcity of a particular compound or food stuff, you want to preserve that food, because drying, mushrooms need moisture, and drying of the desert had less and less moisture, which means you had less and less mushrooms, which means you had to find some type of way to preserve it. And they used honey to preserve the mushrooms, because honey is the only food stuff that won't go bad. Now, if certain yeast get it, it'll turn into mead, but honey is a preservative. You can put the mushrooms in the honey. The honey will actually take the constituents out of the mushrooms, turn the honey blue, and you still can get the same experience by ingesting the honey that you would if you ingested the mushrooms. So they utilized it, and by this way of preservation. The mushrooms just don't grow on cow dung. They grow on hippopotamus dung, giraffe dung, camel dung. They like dung. Dungs come from cow. This is where the sacred cow in Kemet, Het-Haru or Hathor, comes about. This is where the sacred cow in India comes about. Just because the cow produces milk, butter, ghee, and other things, but also the sacred intelligence of what grows on the mushrooms, and also utilizing the cow pies themselves for not only building materials. You know, they use cow dung smeared on the walls to make houses. You also use it in medicine. You know, cow chip tea. things like that. But it's used also in building materials and things like that. It also can be burned as fuel. So there's many different things that come from the cow that make it sacred, but one special attribute of the cow's dung is that the sacred mushroom like to grow on it, but it'll grow on pretty much any kind of dung. If we go to ancient Kemet, you have what's called m0yGbjlBKEg, or what they call hieroglyphics, which means hieroglyphics picture writing. They say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Here we have a scene of what is called the sacred ceremony of the opening of the mouth of the particular mummy. And behind the mummy you have Anup or Anubis, who is the jackal. Symbolically, the jackal brings to mind a being that can make life-giving flesh out of decaying matter. So the decay of death can be brought into living flesh and be reanimated inside of the jackal. So symbolically, that's what the jackal is doing. It is bringing life-giving material out of death and the flesh of death. It's kind of like I was at a conference in 2005, the m0yGbjlBKEg conference, where they brought together shaman and priests and rabbis and other people from all over the world in different systems. They had Catholic priests, they had representatives of Lakota, they had representatives of the Yoruba, of Zoroastrianism, of all the different types of spiritual systems. They brought them to Dallas, Texas, and had a conference there with these different people. And what I found was very interesting, because I never met somebody who was part of the Zoroastrian religion, how they bury their dead. They don't actually bury their dead. What they do is they take the people out into the desert and put them on pallets so that they could be eaten by the vultures. And the vultures would consume their flesh. And this was one of the things that they did that I thought was very interesting. And one thing that you did as a Zoroastrian is you save up your money not for a funeral, but to fly home so that you could be put on a pallet and the vultures could eat your body, so that you would be flown to the next life by the vultures, which was very interesting. But back to this particular scene. You can read the actual m0yGbjlBKEg on this. That is one rendition of it. But you can also experience this particular type of writing under the influence of the sacred mushroom, where it becomes more like a DVD. It becomes three-dimensionalized. Whereas under the right amount of ingestion of the sacred substance, these characters come off the wall three-dimensionalized, and in a relationship of face-to-face will give you a rendition of what was going on or what was the purpose of this particular scene. Now, you also have encoded into it what is called the mushroom glyph. The mushroom glyph is a mushroom cap and stem embedded inside of information to show how the particular information is to be experienced, not to be read, but to be experienced. On the table here of the food of the gods, you have mushroom caps. Mushroom caps are the female portion of the mushroom. The stems are the male portion of the mushroom. They go together, male and female, to make little mushrooms. The Anup is actually holding the mushroom glyph that is superimposed over the front of the mummy, where he has his hand here and holding the stem of the mushroom in stylized form. They always jazz it up for the photograph, but the mushroom glyph is there and it's being held because it's the most important portion of the particular frieze or the particular rendition of what's going on here, because this is how it's experienced. It's experienced through the opening of the mouth and the ingestion of the mushroom. This is the symbology behind this. This is the secret information behind this, that it is an experience, not a reading. See, in the beginning, when we were hunting and gathering, men and women together, a division of labor came about. Men dealt with basically the hunting, and women dealt with basically the gathering. Not that if a woman was walking past a piece of meat and it was there, that she wouldn't get it because you say that's man's work. No, she would, but there was a division of labor according to what was best and what was most needed according to what the family group was doing. So on this grassland, hunting and gathering, some smart woman looking for food saw a mushroom, because in nature, growing on cow dung, these mushrooms just pretty much beg to be eaten, especially if you're walking around looking for something to eat, because it can be the size of a dinner plate on a stalk 12 inches tall, and be a bunch of them there. So if you're looking for food, you're going to try it at least once. So what they did was they tried it, and they found that it had 3 levels of ingestion. The first level, this mushroom imparts visual acuity. In other words, it makes you see better. It gives you a clearer vision of reality. And in a hunting and gathering group situation, that is an adaptive advantage. In other words, if you can see farther and see clearer, it is better for your group, because then you will be better able to feed your children so that they will gain the age of majority to be able to produce their children, and the species moves on. So the second level of ingestion of the mushroom is that it's a true aphrodisiac. In other words, it's not like one of the aphrodisiacs that you may have come in contact with as far as hearing about, which does nothing but produce genital itching. And so you're more likely scratching to be thinking about something. It actually produces in the human being what is called central nervous system arousal, or CNS arousal, which in the male is erection and an antsiness, not being able to sleep up and things like that. So it's a true aphrodisiac. And then the third level of ingestion, which is at the higher doses, is that it is the imparter of a true mystery. And that mystery is just as much a mystery in 2012 as it was 30,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. It is what pushed human beings into the human stage, or the human state, to be able to think about something more than just being able to eat, being able to outrun a lion or a leopard, which you can't do. Think more about things that had absolutely nothing to do with the environment, things that were more, the higher functions. In other words, moving from, okay, it's getting dark, we got to get to a safe spot, so because the lion's getting ready to come out. When it gets dark, it's like, oh man, those little lights up in the sky, I wonder what those are. I wonder if there's something up there other than just little lights. It spurred your mind to think about something more. Where did I come from? Where did I come from? I know I came from mother and father, but where did they come from? And what about their mother and father? Let's take it all the way back. Where did they come from? And on and on and on. Where did they come from? Who am I? What am I? Matter of fact, what am I? These type of questions started to come about by the ingestion of this particular mushroom. This is a Tibetan mandala. You have different renditions like this in different places around the world. Navajo have sand paintings, and a few of the other groups have sand paintings that are very similar to this. But when we look at them, we think that they're beautiful, and they're symbols that we see, and they're great to look at. They're intricate. But the thing is that under the influence of the entheogen, the psychedelic, the hallucinogen, the power plant, these are not just two-dimensional renditions. These are places that you go. under the influence of the particular mushroom. So when they're doing this, they're building worlds. And the access point to that world is through the entheogens. Here is a mandala, very similar to the other one, that they took at the university and produced an algorithm to three-dimensionalize what this particular thing is. So they ran it through the computer through a particular analog, and this is what the computer came up with. The computer said, this is what this thing is if I make it three-dimensional. It's a place.
Go back.
It's a place that you go into. It's not a thing that you look at. That's why mandalas are hung on the walls. That's why carpets are hung on the walls. That's where your meditation comes in. You meditate, but you don't just meditate and think nothing. No, you ingest your entheogen. You sit in front of the mandala, the Persian rug, your geometric symbol, and you go into the places that is there. This is a Persian rug or carpet. Wow. They used to say that in Aladdin that they had the magic carpet that you rode on the magic carpet. The magic carpet is made, the red dye in the magic carpet is made of Syrian rue. Syrian rue is a beta carboline. It's called pagamon harmala. It is an analog that is a MAO inhibitor, monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Now it's hard to break this down as far as the learning curve, but for the young ones, you have it in your consciousness, and you got it in 30 years from now or 10 years from now, you pull it out and come out, oh, monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Where have I heard that from? But you have it in your consciousness. A monoamine oxidase is in your stomach. And what it does is it stops small compounds from passing through your intestine into your bloodstream, getting in your brain, and doing something to you. Most DMT, dimethyltryptamine, is locked up in nature. Like I said, it's in grasses, it's in tree bark, it's in acacia, it is in Psychotria viridis, which is one half of the analog of ayahuasca. It is in frogs. It is in other animals, but you can't use it because the monoamine in your stomach stops it from passing into your brain and giving you a hallucinogenic experience. But when you have a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, it inhibits the monoamine oxidase in your stomach and allows those compounds to move into your bloodstream. They cross the blood-brain barrier, get into your brain, and you have the hallucinogenic experience. So, the flying carpet, when they were talking about flying carpets and magic carpets, they weren't just metaphorically talking about it. They were actually talking about magic carpets because the hallucinogens in the red dye created places and worlds inside of this carpet. Your ancestors live in this part of the carpet. That's why they took, carpets were taken and preserved and passed down generation for generation because the ancestors lived in that carpet. Your grandmother and grandfather live in this place in the carpet. So you lay the carpet out on the ground, you ingest your entheogen, you go into this particular portion of the carpet, which is a whole different universe and world where your ancestors live, where your grandmother and your grandfather who passed this carpet down to you gave you a point of access with them by going to this point in the carpet. So all you do is lay down on the carpet, take your entheogen power plant, and you go into this world right here where your ancestors live, and you have access to all the information that they had. And all the information that their ancestors had, because those ancestors live over here. This is a whole different universe, a whole different world, whole different set of circumstances, whole different set of rules that govern the reality that they're in. There, they can fly there. They use these carpets to ride around on. You know, they want to go to Jason and Leslie's, you know, they get on the carpet and fly over there on the carpet because it's a different set of rules. So the carpet is a technology Information is every place. It's in trees. I know you've looked at maybe a spill on the floor in your carpet, you can't get up. And you see a face in there. Looks like a face. You turn a little way and it looks like a face in the carpet. It looks like a duck. Or you look off into those trees. It's information in those trees. But you have to have the access point. You take your entheogen, you sit down there on that bench and you look out into those trees, and the trees move, they talk, they give up their knowledge and information, because knowledge and information is everywhere. We just don't see it because we stuck in one particular channel of information, one particular place. That's why you can go to villages in Africa, and you can go to certain places around the world, be it South America, be it here, where people are on their ancestral land and relating, and the old people go and they're talking to people in the cave and things like that. They're relating to the people and ancestors there. And most of the times when you go to villages and see people, and they may be sitting there and look like, well, they don't have no, they have no running water, they don't have no electricity, the clothes are raggedy, they're living in a hut, they got to go not to the well here, but they got to walk a mile or 2 miles to the well, pull that up with a bucket, take the bucket, put it on top of their head, and then walk back 2 miles with this bucket, not even a bucket. It's not a bucket. They use, in Africa, they use these little, like the little trash cans that are about that big. They put those little trash cans full of water on the head. The women put them things on it, and then they started walking. I've seen people walking with an engine block on their head out of car. Because, in Africa, a lot of times you ain't got no jack, so what they do is turn the car over sideways and change the tire. Ingenuity. Mm-hmm. But these people who you may think have nothing, they don't even live in the world that you come and see. They live in someplace else. That's why they're so happy. That's why they are not worrying about things that are going on in politics or things that are going on in the world. Because while you think they're here and you see their body here, they're actually someplace else. This is Syrian rue. It's a seed, seed of a plant that's used, is crushed down, mixed up, and then put into the particular carpets. Or you mix it up and utilize as an MAO inhibitor with the bark of acacia, which the ancient Kemetic priesthood utilized to be able to access these worlds. So that's Pargama harmala. This is a puzzle box. This puzzle box is famous from a set of movies where they have the Cenobites and Pinhead and other things like that. But this box is a place. Puzzles are places. They're places that you go to, not things that you just play with. The Rubik's Cube is a place. And this is, okay, here. We have here depicted Wasir, or Osiris, or Ansar, who is the master of the underworld, of the dead, of the world of potential in the next life. And here, he is in his mushroom form. Well, this is the stem of the mushroom, and this portion is the cap. Disregard the arms on it, and that they knocked out his head. And the next slide I put actually next to it a mushroom to show that the mushroom is there in secret, because it's not for the profane to see. It's not for those who don't know. It's only for those who know, to understand what this is and what it relates to symbolically, because it relates to the underworld, or the world of potential. This is the underside of a mushroom. This is the mushroom cap turned under. This is where the spores are generated and live. But it also a glyph, because what the ancient pre-Kemetic priesthood did was, while ingesting these mushrooms and under novel states of consciousness, they went into a world embedded with the information of a particular mushroom, because mushrooms have signatures on them. You find these mushrooms of the same genus around the world. But if you find this mushroom in Cambodia, you will see, by ingesting this mushroom at the high doses, the heroic doses, you will see the Nagas, you will see the Angkor Wat temple type, where they have those things on top of each other. If you ingest it in Mexico, you're going to see step pyramids, you're going to see Olmec, Toltec, Mayan civilizations coming out of this mushroom. If you ingest the one in Northern Africa, you're going to see pyramids, you're going to see Tekken, you're going to see those type of things. If you ingest it someplace else, you're going to see the signature there, because this mushroom is what built those civilizations. This is what told them how to build the pyramids. So each one has a signature of it. But Ra's signature is imprinted on the mushroom. Ra, the pre-Kemetic priesthood, journeying in novel case of consciousness, went and saw how one family chose to clothe themselves in reality. And that was the family of Ra. And they used birds' heads with human beings. They used cow head human beings. They have sheer clothing that is pleated. You see, all ancient clothing is pleated. Why? Because the pleat is a technology. Clothing is technology. It's not like today you just, oh, I like these blue jeans, or, oh, that's a nice shirt. No, clothing is technology. It is a step up on the scale of human beings. The folded cloth, the folded B-skirt is a technology. It is the folding and it is a time machine. It is folding and unfolding time. Closing and unclosing the wings of the falcon. If you can see that the circle within a circle is the glyph of Ra. This is Amen-Ra, and that's the deity there. Amen-Ra. You see, Ra is the circle within a circle. This is the circle within a circle. These are actually Kemetic ear studs, studs that they put in the ear. But what I put this picture up for is because it shows all of the different genuses of mushroom in the area that they had knowledge of. And they have knowledge of all the hallucinogenic mushrooms in the area, including the amanitas. And we'll get to the amanitas later on. This is your pineal gland. This is the picture of the pineal gland. The pineal gland is not part of the brain, although it sits in your brain system. It is a specialized cell from the roof of the mouth that migrates at the 49th day into the brain system. The 49th day is the time when your eyelids fully form, REM, sleep starts, sexual differentiation happens, and you get your first flush of DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which is the most powerful hallucinogenic that we have on earth, which this mushroom contains. But also it is contained by secretion through your pineal gland through the serotonin cascade. Now, serotonin cascade is this. Your brain regularly runs on serotonin. It is converted to melatonin, melanin, that which gives us our pigment, that you can't get past the embryonic stage without melanin. Melanin is the first biopolymer inside of the human being. So, from that, melanin or melatonin can be converted to pinealine. Pinealine 5-MeO DMT, and then to DMT by the pineal gland at 4:30 in the morning in complete darkness. This is what produces endogenous, inside, endogenous, not exogenous, externally, exide, endogenous spiritual epiphanies, meaning that people that have near-death experiences secrete DMT. At the time of death, you secrete DMT. That's why there are rituals. The Tibetans use 60 days for the ritual between when your heart stops beating and there's no longer pressure on your brain, so that the DMT can flood into your system because there's no pressure keeping the blood-brain barrier sensitive to other compounds coming through. you are then able to, for those days after your so-called brain activity has stopped and after your heart has stopped beating, the pineal gland, you're still experiencing through your pineal gland. That's why there were elaborate rituals after death for the body and things like that. Things were done because the pineal gland is still working while you're in the state of so-called death. The great cow, again, this is just showing the reverence that they had for the cow, that they actually carved pictures of the cow into stone. Here's a cow with blue spots on it. Now, we've never seen blue spots on a cow. Of course, we hear about the red heifer of Judaism and the white cow of other places, but we've never seen a cow with blue spots on it. This is showing symbolically that the cow produces the blue mushroom. This blue is called Azarensian blue or Carillion blue. There was a man who wrote a series of books who actually, he lives with the Tuareg in northern Africa. He lived with the Tuareg. And the Tuareg, they wear the veils, kind of like veils, and they have this blue clothing, indigo. But he wrote this series of books called The Dune Chronicles and Dune. There were a couple of movies made about Dune, and it talked about the greatest power in the universe was produced by the worms of Arrakis, and that was the spice melange. It gave the spicing guild the ability to move without moving. And there was a priestesshood called the Bene Gesserit priestesshood that was assigned to produce, through parthenogenesis, the universe's first super being, the Kwisatz Haderach. And parthenogenesis is the ability of a woman to have a child without the utilization of a man. That's what the Greek temple called the Parthenon was in reverence to, the ability of women to have a child without a man. The Lancet, which is the medical journal of England, has substantiated parthenogenesis several hundred times, even in modern times. We don't look for parthenogenesis because even though a man and a woman may be together, the man may not be the father of the baby. The baby could be produced parthenogenically, but you never look for that because the woman is with the man anyway. But the child that is always produced female through the mitochondrial DNA system. So that whole thing can be involved, but the Dune Chronicles was written on psilocybin mushrooms, dealing with the universe's first super being, the Kwisatz Haderach, and the Fremen who had blue within blue eyes, and that blue within blue is Carillion, the same blue that is held by the psilocybin mushroom. This is the dung beetle, Kepra, and it has the mushroom glyph inside of it. It's kind of hard to see on this little monitor, but you have the stem here, and this part is the cap of the mushroom. The beetle pushes dung, and as you understand from what I talked about earlier, the mushroom grows on dung. So the symbology of the beetle pushing the sun Ra, which is a circle within a circle, across the horizon, is in congruence and symbology of the mushroom dossier that I'm talking to you and revealing to you this evening. This is a picture of a dung beetle pushing a ball of dung across the land, because dung beetles get rid of the dung. If it wasn't for that, there'd be a lot of dung around, especially in Africa where you have many of these different animals, camels and giraffe and bison and wildebeest and all kind of animals leaving dung. The dung beetles get rid of that. But the baby beetles are born and eat the dung balls. But also they eat the mushrooms that are also inside of the dung, because the spores of the mushroom are deposited in the dung. And here it's just talking about The majority of dung beetles feed on dung both in their adult and larval phase. However, many dung beetles feed on a variety of things, including mushrooms. Here we have again Osiris or Wesir or Ansar in the veiled form, where you see here an actual psilocybin mushroom where the veil is tearing away, and here you see that Ansar is veiled. It means a certain stage of development. A stage of development just before you're getting ready to give your knowledge or your energy to something greater than yourself. The passing on of the genetic structure of the psilocybin mushroom. The veil is tearing away so that the spores can be dispersed into the atmosphere and find a wholesome ground for the next generation to come. But for that next generation to come, for what reason? That it be spread around so that eventually it will merge with a being that is capable in cognition to be able to utilize what it has as far as the informational structure. Again, we'll just go through a few of these. Mummified form, but in the form of a mushroom. Blue, but in the form of the mushroom. This is the mushroom phase. You'll see many family groups in Africa. The men are protecting the cattle. They're in East Africa, they're standing, but they're standing on one leg and they're like this. They'll have their spear and they're standing like this. This is the mushroom form because the mushrooms are growing in the cattle dung because they are cattle men. They're protecting the cattle. Again, mushroom form. Here we have Haru. You can't see his head cut off on this picture, it's on the thing here. But you have Haru, which is the falcon, standing on the mushroom. Because if you understand what I said earlier about the first lower stages of visual acuity being able to see far, piercing sight, being able to look into the sun without flinching or without blinking. These are things that the falcon does. So the falcon has the great sight. This gives you the sight of the falcon, piercing, being able to see through the veils of illusion into reality. Here we have on the table of the food of the gods again, stylized mushroom caps and stem. Here we have in m0yGbjlBKEg, mushrooms in the actual stone in the glyph. Actual mushrooms in the stone in the glyph. Kind of hard to see here. Here we have the crown of the south, which is actually a reiteration of a baby mushroom. This is actually a baby mushroom. This is actually a rendition of the crown of the south. It's no different in, well, we'll get to that part. Here we have the 9 judges. This is where you get the same judge system for the Supreme Court of the United States. When you had politicians and they wanted to debate things, they would take their entheogen, especially you see it in Minoan Crete in Greece, where they would take their entheogen because of the Eleusinian, what they call the Eleusinian mysteries and previous Eleusinian mystery type gills. This is a baby mushroom. I actually put a picture of one next to it to show the same thing. The picture's not that clear, but this is a baby mushroom. Mm-hmm. Here we have again the symbology supporting Haru the falcon standing upon the blue mushroom, the Carillion blue mushroom, with mushroom caps around it, and the head of a cow. Haru standing on the mushroom. Here we have again mushroom cap. The symbology is embedded in a secret system. Here are mushrooms in cultivation in modern times. They're growing on rice cakes. It's actually a mixture of vermiculite and rice flour. The mushroom actually eats the rice flour because mushrooms they're not like plants. They don't photosynthesize. Mushrooms eat and they breathe. They breathe in oxygen and they exhale out CO2, carbon dioxide, like human beings. We're more closely related to fungi than we are anything else. 465 million years ago, you had an asteroidal impact. And when it hit the Earth, it killed everything on Earth bigger than a chicken immediately. At the first second and a half, this thing was already 5 miles into the Earth, and it threw up so much dust, it blotted out the sun for several years. And everything on Earth particularly perished, except for like roaches and a couple of other things. And those things that paired with mushrooms, because mushrooms don't need light to survive. They can survive without it, because they can, number one, utilize radiation, and they can grow in very, very sparse frequencies of light that human beings wouldn't be able to exist under. So mushrooms actually rule the earth. They came onto the earth 400 million years before plants came on earth and before anything else came out of the sea. So fungi have been here for a very, very long time. These are mushrooms. I just put the picture there for the psilocybin mushrooms just because they were beautiful mushrooms. Just wanted folks to see that. Here's the mushroom cap that I'm holding to show you the size of one in cultivation under conditions that you grow, as opposed to when I said it can be in nature, it can be that big around in nature. Here we have an actual spore print. This print was produced by taking the mushroom cap, inverting it onto white paper or either aluminum foil, and those spores would then be deposited on the aluminum foil, and you could utilize those spores to then propagate the species of mushroom you're trying to do. There's actually millions and millions and millions of spores on there that actually you can't see them. They're microscopic. The spores all through here that you're breathing in and out all the time. But these are deposited in mass on a particular substance so that they can be utilized and perpetuated in an artificial environment later on. But you see again, the symbolic glyph is the circle within the circle. Now, this is around the head of Jesus. You can call him Jesus, you can call him Yeshua Bar Yusuf, you can call him Joshua Ben Bandera, you can call him Jesus, you can call him whatever you want. But behind his head is what we a long time called the halo. But let us bear and see what we have here. Okay, we have lines radiating out. Here we have lines radiating out. So what I did was I put that mushroom cap behind my head to show that although we say that that's the halo, it's actually the mushroom glyph behind the head, because what you're saying is that early Christianity was a mushroom culture. And not just Christianity, Buddhism. Here we have the Lingham and the Yoni. But again, it's only a stylized mushroom stem and the mushroom cap. Even though this is stylized, you have the circle within the circle with the lines radiating out, and this is the stem that it sits upon. And these are the, virgins that, if you're lucky, you get on that type of trip. Here we have the stem and the cap. This one just put on the ground, showing the same relationship. Stem and cap, stem and cap. This one's stylized because it's in stone, and it was put there for later people of this particular culture to decipher and decode and understand that, oh, they're talking about a mushroom, and I eat this, and I go into the temple, and I see the walls, and the walls start moving, and things start coming off the walls, and I have places that I can go and experience the things that the people are talking about in the particular temple. Here we have Persephone and Demeter. Persephone is the young woman. Demeter is the older woman who is in the fullness of her power, who no longer bleeds, who no longer has to worry about children. And she's passing on the knowledge and information to the younger sister, Persephone. This is at the site of the Eleusinian mysteries, where at 18 you went to Eleusis and got your hit of your hallucinogen so that you could understand that there was more to life than just the regular three-dimensional reality that we exist in day to day. That there are other realities, there are other dimensions, there are other worlds that we can experience by just getting the right amount of the particular sacrament of which the governments and secret societies and guilds and priesthoods and priestesses kept from the regular people. Because in the beginning, back when we were hunting and gathering, everybody in the family group experienced these things as a relationship and a face-to-face relationship to the mystery, because we all had it. But what happened was, as the Sahara started drying and different places started drying, everybody couldn't take it then, because it wasn't enough for everybody to take. There was only a little bit left. So we took the elders and gave them the particular substance, and they told us what the deities said. They told us what the forces said. They became the holy and sacred people. The first generation, it was not a problem because they had a relationship with the particular mystery also. So we're all out here, we're all eating our mushrooms tonight, and out of the sky breaks open, a beam of light hits the middle of this field, and a being steps out, and he's got a bird's head and a human being's body. His name is Haru. He says to you, okay, well, you should do this. It's 2012, you shouldn't do that. We're getting ready to do this. The world is getting ready to open up and things like this. And you say, okay. And Haru shoots back into the sky that next morning, and we say, did you see that guy last night? And did you hear what he said? And they were like, yeah, I heard him and I saw him. Okay, so we can agree that there was a guy who came out of the sky, landed on Earth in our circle, told us information. He had a bird's head and a human being's body, and we'd all agree about that. But when the mushrooms became scarce and only two people were eating them, the oldest man and the oldest woman, and that generation, first generation dies out, and the next generation can't get none, and the old people are saying, well, we took the mushrooms last night, and the man with the bird head named Haru came down and told us that we shouldn't stay on this land no more. We should move to Wisconsin. The folks who had never experienced face-to-face the man with the bird head and the human body will say, well, I ain't never seen no man's head with no bird's head. Y'all telling us some stuff. Now you have to believe what somebody else is telling you rather than the direct experience of you seeing it yourself. You have to believe what this person and that person is saying. So now it becomes religion, because I got to believe it, not experience it for myself, and know it for myself. So what happens is, down the line, when this thing becomes priestcraft, which it does eventually, because the dryness moved the people from the Sahara, where everybody was taking their mushrooms, everybody was out, you didn't have to worry about water or game or anything like that, move you to the Nile Valley, where you had to be precise in predicting when the inundation period was going to come so you could grow enough food to be able to feed everybody. The priesthood became corrupt because people got into the priesthood for the wrong reasons. Why did they get into the priesthood for the wrong reasons? Because, hey, I'm out here, you're out here, we working hard all the day. We pulling weeds up, we hoeing the land, we building, we taking care of our oxen, all these different things. And the priest come and said, well, y'all got to give us, 30 bags of rice, and, y'all got to give us your best cow and things like that, because, the gods need food. Well, really, the gods don't need no food. The priests need the food. And the priests say, hey, well, the house that God got, it's small. We need to get a project together where all y'all come when y'all not working on your farms and work and build a big house for God. But God don't need no house. But the priests are the ones that enjoy the house. But the people who are doing all the work saying, look, I don't want the job to be the building these big houses and hoeing in the fields all day. I want the job that he got. All he do is throw some incense, come and say he wants some food.
Get the money.
So when he comes in, he's not coming in for the pure purpose anymore. He's coming in because he don't want to work. He wants to be part of the group that don't work and just get the benefits. So Persephone and Demeter is passing on the mushroom and the secret sacred knowledge to the young person in their particular system. If this is a mentor program, and most people who say mentor program don't know what mentor program is. Odysseus, when he was going to the Trojan War, when Agamemnon and Menelaus came because Helen was taken by Paris in Troy. So what happened was Odysseus left his young son in the care of Mentor. Mentor was this old guy. And he initiated him into Greek young manhood. What a mentoring program is the sexual relationship between an older man and a young boy. That's what a mentoring program is. That's what Mentor did to Telemachus, who was the son of Odysseus, when he went to Troy. So that's what a mentoring program is. So when folks say, well, I'm part of a mentoring program, or I want somebody to mentor my son, and then these pedophiles do the things that they do, all you're doing is perpetuating a long line of Greek male homosexuality that was produced from what was called the Iliad and the Odyssey, and the third book, or really the second book that they took out, was called the Entheogens. The Entheogens talked about the 20,000 Africans from Ethiopia who fought in the Trojan War, who they took the whole book out. Because the king of Troy was the cousin of the king of Ethiopia. And the greatest warrior of the Trojan War was not Achilles, it was Memnon the Great. Memnon fought Achilles, and they pulled Achilles off so Memnon didn't kill him. Zeus and them pulled the thing so that Memnon wouldn't kill him. But you had 20,000 Ethiopians who fought in the Trojan War who they just sucked the whole thing out because they didn't want the Africans in there about that. And then later on, the grandson who left Troy, who was one of the Africans, came and was the grandfather of Romulus and Remus, who were the originators of Rome. But that's a different lecture. This is Dionysus, and showing just different systems having mushrooms as part of those particular systems. Golden cap of the mushroom, undercap of the mushroom, just showing the beauty and different diversity of the mushrooms. Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass. In modern times, Alice ate the mushroom and made her big. She ate another mushroom and made her small. This is because Lewis Carroll and these guys were utilizing hallucinogens to come up with the reasons and the stories that they brought about. Papa Smurf, the wisest of the Smurfs. How's Papa Smurf so wise? Because Papa Smurf is eating the blue mushrooms. Matter of fact, Papa Smurf is blue, and all the rest of the Smurfs are blue. Now we're going to move to the red pill. You have the blue pill and the red pill. You take the red pill, I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This mushroom is called the fly agaric. It's the witch mushroom. It's the one that the witches in Europe used to ride the brooms, to fly. It's also the ones that the people like the Zulu use in warfare and battle. This is a white mushroom, peanut-like, of the Amanita kind. This goes through the history of the Amanita. I'm not going to read all this. You know, we moving along. We're going to be in dark in a little bit. But it talks about the earliest record possible, the earliest records of possible use in ancient Vedic hymns of India, urine drinking associated with mushroom intoxication mentioned in the Rig Veda 9th and 10th mandalas. As hypothesized by Watson, psilocybin may have been the actual psychoactive agent. Now, the Rig Veda talks about utilizing the red mushroom in the soma brew. yoga has something else to it, not just devotion, not just prayer, not just postures. It has a hallucinogenic mushroom that goes with it that gives access to the postures and to the hymns and to the songs that make it accessible to the experience. When Krishna imparted the Bhagavad Gita inside of the Mahabharata to Arjuna on the field of the field of battle, he gave Arjuna a hallucinogenic drink to experience his transcendental forms, to show him that death did not exist, that even though he was dejected in having to battle his uncle and his father and his cousins and his grandfather and his teacher Drona. He said that the people you're talking about killing are already dead. I've already chewed them in my mouth.
Wow.
As everyone goes from birth through old age, through death, they get rid of bodies and get more bodies and do it resurrecting over and over until they perfect it. He's given him the Bhagavad Gita inside of the Mahabharata, but it gives him a hallucinogenic drink. He don't just tell him because he couldn't experience his transcendental forms without the hallucinogenic drink. Indra and Vishnu and all the rest of them are accessed by the hallucinogenic mushroom. Now the Aryans who came in from the north utilized the red mushroom. They were up in the mountains where the cedars were, where the pines were, because the red mushroom has a mycorrhizal relationship with cedars and conifers. Even when you're talking about the cedars of Lebanon and things like that, that's where they were getting their mushrooms from. If you're talking about the Shaolin Temple and Kung Fu and all those styles are accessed by the mushrooms. That's how the Shaolin Temple came up with all that stuff. Shaolin Temple means young forest, young pine forest where the mushrooms grow. That's what the Shaolin Temple means. So when they doing the drunken monkey and all that kind of stuff, that comes from ingesting the mushroom and going into novel states of consciousness to the planet of war where all these styles and weapons exist. That's why Karna went to get the divine weapon of Indra. He ate the mushroom and he went to the mountain of war to get the divine weapon of Indra that can't be stopped. So the Aryans had the red mushroom. The Dravidians and the people that were pushed south in India had the blue mushroom because it was associated with the cow.
Mm-hmm.
This is a red mushroom sun form. Okay, now let's get to the Catholics. We'll get something. How did Catholics keep on top of it? This is Pope Innocent to somebody, but I don't think he's innocent. But let's look at his clothing. What does the clothing symbolize? What does it look like?
Wow.
This one's kind of dark. Let's move forward. This was in February at the making of the new cardinals. The present day Pope. This was on TV. I took it off the TV set. That's why you see the flash. You see that light there. I took it off the TV set. Because when I show people these pictures, well, they said, oh, that's some stuff. That was 500 years ago. They don't, the red and white symbol. No, this was in February at the College of Cardinals where the Pope was making new cardinals. So this ain't 500 years ago. This was in February, which I took off the TV at St. Peter's Basilica. Stylized mushroom in St. Peter's Basilica. The dome inside of St. Peter's Basilica. Now, if you can imagine, use your imagination, and fill that dome up, it's a mushroom cap. It's the underside of the mushroom cap with the lines going into the circle, just like I said before. All this symbology of the secret sacredness is dealing with the hallucinogenic plants of which your government and those people in power who have been in power for 10,000 years have divorced from the average person. They eat, tell you you can't eat it. They experience, tell you you can't experience it. Make it illegal for you. Here's the present day Pope in February with the mushroom on the fish's mitre. The fish's mitre from Mesopotamia, where the fish and Dagon is on top of his head. It ain't got nothing to do with Christianity. His mushroom is right on top of the doggone hat. This is the Cathedral of the Most Blessed Sacrament. This is around the corner from my house in Detroit. As I told you before, the red mushroom has a mycorrhizal relationship with pine trees. That's why pine trees are on top of all the Catholic churches, because they get their knowledge and information from the red mushroom, which grows under the pine tree. It's a whole Christmas story. That's why Santa Claus got on the red and white suit and he rides reindeers, because reindeers eat the red mushrooms. This is the door to the Blessed Sacrament. This is the mushroom stem, and this is the cap. It's stylized in the door. But this is the doorway to knowledge of the universal Catholic faith through the mushroom. Now, your priest ain't gonna know this. Your bishop may know it, but the cardinals and the Pope know it. This is the doorway of the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. That's the stem, and that's the cap. This is the top of the Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament in the city of Detroit. It's stylized, doesn't have as many lines, but it's a circle within a circle with the lines radiating out. This is a book, Evidence, the Holy Mushroom, Evidence of Mushrooms in Judeo-Christianity. And this is a tomb, and it deals with a debate between John Allegro and Gordon Wasson dealing with the mushroom's use in Christianity. This is the rose window at the Cathedral of Notre Dame. And again, you have the circle within the circle. Here at Amanita, this is a clip that I can't play, but this is dealing with Amanita mushrooms and reindeer. This one is dealing with Amanita mushrooms and Santa Claus, or St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas, at the Nicene Council in 325 in Turkey, Constantine called together 1,800 bishops. 1,600 bishops from Northern Africa, because Christianity was centered on Northern Africa, flowing out of the Mantians, Numidia, Egypt, Ethiopia, Libya, which the Gaddafi come from. I know y'all thought Muammar Gaddafi was the man's name. Gaddafi is a group. That's why they've been trying to get rid of the Gaddafi since Roman times, because they were Bedouin. They weren't, but Gaddafi wasn't an Arab. He was a Bedouin. They were there before there was Islam and the Arabs. So that's why he wanted to push for the African Union and things like that, because even though he was light-skinned, he was an African. He wasn't an Arab, although they spoke Arabic because Islam is all through there. So the Bishop of Libya, Arius, went to this conference in 325 in Turkey that Constantine put together on what they were going to put forth, what they believe. We believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and all that, the whole Nicene Creed they call it. And what happened was St. Nicholas was there also. They were pulling a coup inside of the new religion, which was Christianity. And how Nicholas became a saint is that the Bishop of Libya, who was Arius, said, you can't do this, what you're trying to do in Christianity. You're trying to make a virgin birth, which has been done so many times, it's tired. You're trying to make Jesus God. You're trying to deal with the Trinity. All of these things have been done before. Nobody's going to go for this. We can't do this in what we're trying to do. We're trying to put forth a new religious structure. And what Nicholas did was got into an argument with the Bishop of Libya, who was Arius, and hit the old man who was 75 years old, hit the old man in the head with a chair. That's why he was made a saint. And St. Nicholas is the patron saint of pawnbrokers, thieves, and prostitutes. This is the Adam and Eve in the garden. The knowledge of the fruit of good and evil, the knowledge of that I am naked, the knowledge of things that are no longer so-called pristine. How you know you naked? You didn't know you were naked before I got out of here, before I left, when I was walking in the garden with you before, and Adam said what? That woman gave to me and I did eat, and put the blame on her. And then God said, Jehovah El, woman, you're going to have pain in childbirth. I'm going to kick y'all out the garden because woman is your fault. And they've been putting the blame on women ever since because of this trick here. What was the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil? You see behind it, they have the red mushroom cap with the golden spots on it. And behind that, the precursor of that, is the blue mushroom cap circle within the circle. Here's a amanita mushroom growing out of the pine needles. Here's the pine cone, because the mushroom has the relationship with pine trees. So this is in the courtyard at the Vatican, a pine cone. The pine cone, pinealine, neurochemical precursor to DMT, the pine cone, pineal gland, symbology. Used to walk with pine cones, golden pine cones, symbolizing that you had control over the pineal gland through the mushroom. In the courtyard at the Vatican, the mushroom fountain. Hari Hari, holding the mushroom. And I put the picture next to it, second slide, to show you, this is the mushroom, and Hari Hari is holding the mushroom. It ain't no doubt. They're going to say it's a flower, they'll say it's something else, but then they're going to tell you that it's a mushroom because the compendium of that Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Vedas, all is based upon mushroom ingestion. Uh-oh. Bring this back down here. Okay. Here we have statues. Just statue after statue holding the mushrooms. Mushrooms over the head. Mushrooms over the head. Standing upon the mushroom. The foundation of the divine warriorship. The chakra. The chakra, I know y'all think that the chakra is just 7 different centers and things like that. No, the chakra is the warrior, is the disc. That is the weapon of Krishna that cuts folks' heads off. And then the foundation of it is on the mushroom. Here we have Hanuman, the hero of the Ramayana, with Rama and Sita and the whole fight and the Monkey King and the whole thing, and Angi, both holding their mushrooms, standing before the mushroom symbol. Again, another Buddhic mushroom, stylized. Buddhic mushroom, Buddhas with mushrooms. Now, we're going to get into the whole blueness. Why are they depicted as blue? Because the blueness is symbolic of the blue mushroom. You enter these worlds by the blue mushroom. Here are visions of the transcendental state under the influence of the mushroom. The cow is there. The winged entities are there that symbolize the folding of the cloth worn by the different devotees. Autobiography of Yogi. Yes, this is the guy who basically brought yoga to the United States in the early part of the 20th century, and a lot of stars and things started in with yoga. This is Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of the Zoroastrians, and you see that they have their mushroom symbol or the umbrella. You'll see the same thing in Ghana, where the kings come out or the queen mothers come out and they all have their umbrellas. The umbrella is symbolic of the mushroom. This is Zachariah Sitchin dealing with Mesopotamia and the Anunnaki. You see the Anunnaki are mushroom shaped, and the DNA and its relationship to the DNA in the creation of the Adamu. The Adamu is the artificially created entity on Earth that the Anunnaki made to work the gold fields of South Africa originally, and then North Africa later, dealing with Inky and Enlil and An and the rest of them. The attributes of Shango. The mushrooms are said to appear after thunderstorms when lightning strikes. The axe, the double-headed axe of Shango, is symbolic of the mushroom and thunder. Also, the thunder god Thor. This is the Marvel depiction. Then we have a Nordic depiction and another Marvel depiction. But if you look on the belt of Thor, the same hammer is the same axe as Shango, double-headed axe. Here we talk about the clinical effects of psilocybin, going back to the blue mushroom. Psilocybin can occasion mystical type experiences having substantial and sustained personal meaning and spiritual significance. This is your brain. This is your brain on psilocybin. These are the psychological effects. I'm not going to read all this. Serotonin and psilocybin. This is tryptamine. These are basic amino acids. This is what it looks like. This is a structure. I won't keep you much longer.
No,
this is serotonin. This is what your brain runs on. See the difference between this? Tryptamine, serotonin. See the difference between this? Tryptamine, serotonin, melatonin. It's the same structure, just a few chemicals on different structures. It's basically the same thing, a tryptamine core. Here we have psilocybin, which is the constituent in the blue mushroom. The only difference between this is that top part up here. Let us look at all of these neurochemicals. This, tryptamine, serotonin, melatonin, psilocybin is the same thing. When you eat the psilocybin, it knocks part of this top thing off and becomes this, the same thing. You're one ring structure away from the most powerful hallucinogen that exists. Meaning that you have some people whose ring structure gets out of whack and they standing on the corner. I didn't say nothing to you. What you talking about? Tell me. I'm gonna tell your mama. Because they have been pushed over by that one ring structure from a very simple compound. This is a basic compound. But they're hearing stuff and seeing stuff you don't see because they have this, and people say they're crazy. They lock them up and things like that and don't understand that neurochemically their ring structure system has been compromised. So from this, you ingest the mushroom, it becomes this, which is the same thing as this. Becomes psilocin. This is LSD. It still has a tryptamine core, but it's exotic. This is ibogaine, used in the initiation of the Bwiti in Gabon. This is 5-methoxy-DMT. You see it's the same structure. And this is DMT, the most powerful hallucinogen that you have on Earth. There's nothing more powerful than this. It will open up doorways and dimensions that are unimaginable. But you see the structure of it. Look at it. And we're going to go back. It's the exact same thing with one thing moved over. This is the cascade, tryptophan. Enzyme works on it, becomes serotonin. Enzyme works on it, melatonin. Enzyme works on it, 5-MeO. Enzyme works on it, becomes DMT. This is over there, this is the red carpet. Harmaline, harmine, pinoline. That's the red dye in the carpet. You can inhibit pinoline. You can inhibit 5-MeO, but it all rolls back to DMT in ingestion. These are foods that build melatonin, and we're not going to go through all these. These are stereoscopes to show to you that there is embedded information. This is the safety profile, the toxicity of psilocybin. Psilocybin, the blue mushroom, it is impossible to overdose on it. It is non-addicting, meaning that you would have to eat your own body weight in psilocybin mushrooms to kill yourself. It has a very high LD50. LD50 is how much can you feed of any compound to 100 rats before it kills 50 of them. And it means that if you're 170 pounds, you have to eat 170 pounds of mushrooms before you can kill yourself physically eating mushrooms. You can't, it's impossible, you can't do it, you're gonna throw up. You're gonna throw it up before you get 175 pounds down. You couldn't eat that much. So it is very safe. Now, psychologically, it can be challenging. You may think you're dead. But, you can't do it. It's impossible to do. And this is dealing with the safety profile. These are all peer-reviewed studies and things like that. This is basically history. History of some guys here. This is the Life magazine article that Gordon Wasson wrote in May of 1957 that built the 60s. This is what made Timothy Leary and others go to Oaxaca to ingest magic mushrooms, to come back and start the psilocybin project, the Good Friday experiment.
What project?
The psilocybin project. It was a project that Timothy Leary started in the prison of giving psilocybin to prisoners to stop their recidivism, coming back into prison. But the thing about psilocybin is at that particular time you had to capture it from nature. So they gave some of it to a guy named Albert Hofmann. Albert Hofmann is the guy who, in Basel, Switzerland, produced the LSD. He's the one who made LSD. So he found the compounds in it, named it psilocybin, made a synthetic form of psilocybin. But the thing is that that's too difficult to make, not so much now, but they were the only one making it back then. The mushrooms you had to capture from nature, but he said, hey, I got something else you can use, which was LSD, because 2 gallons of LSD is enough to make everybody in the United States high. So that was the difference. You didn't have to wait for the mushrooms to grow. You didn't have to wait for some chemists. Two undergraduate chemists can make enough over a long weekend to make, $30-40 million worth of LSD. So it became a problem. But this is the article that drove them down there, which started the 60s, with Ken Kesey and the Mary Pranks that's going around giving acid tests where they put LSD in the Kool-Aid, and they would go on the bus called Go Far, and they go to different cities, and you take the acid test, which means you drink the Kool-Aid with the acid in it, and you've taken the acid test. This is Easter Island. Now, by this time, you should see what those statues on Easter Island are symbolizing.
That ain't a mushroom.
This is the Olmec, and we're not going to really go deep into the Mayan, but we're in 2012, and what built the Mayan calendar was the mushroom. The mushroom gave them the coordinates and the ability to be able to cognize what was called the Mayan calendar, and the Mayan calendar is hooked to the re-ingestion of the same mushrooms that produced the calendar in 2012. So I'll just go through these pictures, and these are mushroom stones, mushrooms in the eyes. This is the ball game. I can't pronounce that ball game, but this is the one where either you win, they sacrifice you, or you lose, they sacrifice you. But the mushroom is right here, where you couldn't use your hands, you couldn't use your legs, you had to use your chest, your hips, and your shoulders to keep the ball in play and eventually get it in that hole, and then they sacrifice you after you get finished.
I have a question.
Yes.
So like, basically you're saying that like most of the things that we have today is from the mushroom, right?
Pretty much, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
But like in some of the pictures I saw like how I had like a circle, like lights, or like not like the lines coming out of it.
Yeah.
So like I know that another guy, he told me that represented the sun,
Yep, that's what they said.
and like
But
the strings with the life coming out.
yeah, and I said that what do they call the sun in oldest culture,
Rock.
and what was the symbol of Ra? A circle within a circle. So Ra is the sun. So they're saying that circle within a circle with the lines coming out is the sun. All they're doing is saying that it's Ra, and that's what I was building as far as information in the PowerPoint program, is that that light that they're talking about is the spiritual light that comes from the mushroom ingestion that is delivering the information of Ra. So but it's a very good question. Very good question. Here we have another picture with the mushroom on top of the head. Here we have shape-shifting, jaguar, turning into a jaguar, because the mushroom is what gives the information and power to turn into the different animals. That's what they called in West Africa, they call them the amatiga. And many think that Abubakar sent his brother to Central America with 200 ships. He never returned. And when he got back, he said his other brother could be the Mansa, which was the king. He took 700 ships and went to Central America with the what would later be called the Jaguar Knights, or the shape-shifting warriors, you know, just like, you know, you would turn into the Wolfman or something like that. Same thing here. But you see how you shapeshift, you got the mushroom on this side, the human takes the mushroom into his mind and changes into the jaguar. If you read, you know, even though Carlos Castaneda has some license, if you read his books, Journey to the Yaqui Way of Knowledge, Journey to Zoxalan, A Separate Reality, The Tales of Power, Second Ring of Power, The Eagle's Gift, and others, you'll get a lot of information about the Toltec warrior system and the Jaguar Knight and things like that. Also Aztec, the book by, can't think of his name, but these are mushroom ear studs, Central America, mushroom stones. West Africa, mushroom fans or wands. You have the mushroom inside the fan here. You have the stem and the cap. So if you see this mushroom fan or mushroom wand, you never see the mushroom because you don't know that this portion of it is a mushroom. Same thing with the mask. And I'm going quickly because we're gonna be dark here in a minute. But the mushrooms are encoded in the masks.
Can you use shapeshift from meditating?
Meditating?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's impossible, but, you know, to even get to the first phase of what you could do with a mushroom in one night is going to take you at least 30 or 40 years. So you can go over there and sit next to that tree and meditate for the next 40 years and try to get to that, or you could take the mushroom in one night and do it if you are very conscious about really wanting to do that. It can be painful, you know, when your cells start to divide and all that kind of stuff.
Have you ever ingested the mushroom?
Well, the cook has to taste the brew. See, I'm not like the people. A lot of people come to you and they tell you things that they've never done, but that would be disingenuous of me to come and tell you to do something that I've never done. So I have to take it first and tell you the experience, then you take it. So yes, I've taken it many, many times. Here we have scarification, and they put the mushroom symbols in the scarification on the bodies. You have different people that have different things, and everybody's not supposed to do what everybody does. We're in a plethora of cultures nowadays, and people take on people's culture without being asked to take that. One thing is the brother was talking about sweat lodge. You got people doing sweat lodges all over. They have nothing culturally to do with it. They don't ask the elders of that particular nation, can they do that, or teach them how to do it, or is it okay for us to do it? They just put some stuff together and make their own sweat lodge and start making their own stuff up. We have tattoos that the Maori in New Zealand, those people, and the Hawaiian people, those people are tattoo people. We're scarification people. They're tattoo people. But the priest, the shaman who does the tattoos goes through the training of being able to do your tattoo. But he don't do your tattoo. He only externalizes what is already there. He takes his mushroom, looks at you, and sees the signs and symbols on your body, and all he does is traces what's already there. to bring it out and give you your power. Not just, you know, put your girlfriend's name across your chest and something up your thigh and put Eddie on your kneecap and put Chinese characters saying I'm a dummy. And, you know, the guy told you it meant, you know, child of heaven, but it mean I'm a dummy. So when Chinese people look at your arm and see that on, they say, what's that on your arm? You got Chinese characters. And they start laughing and walk away because you got I'm a dummy on my arm instead of I'm a child of heaven. Because you don't know, because you don't speak Mandarin, you don't speak Cantonese, you can't read it. So they can just put some other crazy stuff on your arm. See, the thing is, a true artist is a person of vision. And the vision was imparted when people in secret guilds like Michelangelo and others drew something. They didn't draw anything. They only imparted what was in their mind on the canvas and traced what was on the canvas. When Michelangelo, who was part of a secret guild of ingestors of these same plants, looked at a pillar of marble, he could see the statue inside of the marble. And all he had to do is knock away the unessential parts and liberate the statue, because the statue was already in the marble. It was in the marble before he started. It was in the marble 1,000,000 years ago. All he did is liberate it because he had the vision to be able to see, because he ingested his power plant. He could then make the marble transparent and knock away all the pieces that are in capturing the statue that was inside of the marble. Excuse me. I've been talking back to back for days. I was in Florida and Miami and Fort Lauderdale before that. I was in some other crazy places.
What was that glass plate?
Well, see, this is a clip, and I can't play it.
Oh, it's a
on this.
video. Okay.
It was actually from the last m0yGbjlBKEg, which was supposed to be a child's movie, but it wasn't actually a child's movie. Because they always, people would ask me, well, they would say, how did they align the blocks in the pyramids? Or how did they make, you know, how could they make a straight line with these blocks? And it is that the architect, the grand mason architect, would ingest his mushroom and draw laser lines of sight with other master masons who have ingested their mushroom, and so they just put the blocks up to the lines of light of which they envisioned in their mind. So this talks about that, but I can't play the clip. We're almost finished because I don't want to hold you long. This is actually a 4-hour lecture, but I'm doing it quick. The Amanita pantherina mushroom. This is a Amanita mushroom like the red one, but it's brown and it's different. It's the panther mushroom. It is the one utilized by the Black Panther Society in Africa. Jack Kirby, who was the master of Marvel Comics and had CIA information, put out information on the Black Panther Society in the first African superhero of Marvel Comics in the 1960s called the Black Panther. But what they didn't tell you is that there's a mushroom hooked to the Black Panther Society, which is the Amanita pantherina. But that mushroom is used for warfare in many parts of the world. And since most people don't know about the Black Panther Society, the Black Panther is a warrior who is the original ninja. You can't see them. By the time you see them, you're already dead. So, since most people know about the ninjas, I put this into talking about the Amanita pantherina. The Amanita pantherina of the Japanese mycoflora are included in the taxon Tengu Taki, Tengu mushroom. History of the ninja. One of the myths is that the ninja were said to learn their art form as well as were descendants of the Tengu, which is the same thing as the mushroom. They call them mountain goblins. They go up on this mountain outside of Tokyo, and this is where they had the big pine forest, and this is where the Tengu mushroom grew. And this is where they learn their swordsmanship. This is where they learn their forging techniques from these mountain goblins who were included inside of the Tengu Taki or the Pantherina mushroom. This is where they got their martial arts system. This is not me talking. When I was talking it, nobody said anything. This is what the Tengu looked like. Once you go up on the mountain and eat the mushroom, these things start flying around you, and if they like you, they'll teach you martial arts. That's the Tengu Taki mushroom. It's just like the red one, except it is brown. It's also used in Africa by the members of the Black Panther Society. Tengu, also strongly associated with Kurama-yama, are the legendary Tengu. Kurama-yama is a mountain. This is the mountain that I was talking about. Deities of the sacred mountain. It was Kurama-yama, or Horse Saddle Mountain, situated on the northern outskirts of Kyoto, where it is said that Usei Sensei carried out his 21-day meditation, and on the 21st day experienced the phenomena that is Riki. Now the guy that started Riki was up on the Mushroom Mountain going through, because this is where you go up on the mountain to eat the mushrooms to have your visions. He going up, carrying out a 21-day meditation, eating the Tengu Taki mushroom, and that's where he came up with Riki. So all you Riki masters who get a Riki certificate in 1 week, you become a Riki master by taking the course, paying your $1,500 and taking the Riki course. You didn't get the Tengu Taki mushroom to get the same vision of experience that the guy who started it did, where the Tengu, the mountain goblins on that mountain, taught you what it was. No, you got the $1,500 course watered down at some college, and that's what you've been saying that you're a master of. It don't work like that. It's something hooked to it. But if you say this to somebody, they're going to get upset. They're going to say, I did a workshop in Harlem at the National Black Theater, and all of the spiritual people got offended. That said they could do it without it. They don't have to do that. It's a drug that, I go to those realms without it. How you know you go to those realms without it? I'm not convinced. And I'm ready to put up or shut up. I'll bring you some mushrooms, or you can come and get some mushrooms and you tell me it's the same thing. I don't believe that it's the same thing. I don't think you can dance up on this. I don't think you can breathe up on this. I think you have to take this mushroom and stick it in your mouth at the proper doses. Then you get access to the hyperdimensional, extra-dimensional worlds, and you go face to face with what you're talking about. But it takes courage. It don't take talking about it. It don't take sitting down. Nobody goes to the ashram with their knees shaking. Like, oh man, I'm getting ready to go through this, and no telling what I'm going to see. No, you're going in there and you're going to sit and you're going to do your postures, you're going to do your breathing, you're going to finish and leave. Nobody goes to the Buddhist temple with their knees shaking, saying, what am I going to see tonight? What's going to come? I don't know. And you have to push forward anyway. It takes courage. It ain't all the time we've been looking for the thing to get us there. It's always pushing the gas pedal to the floor. More and more. If I'm meditating, I want to really get this. I really want to be in the celestial realms. It's always pushing the pedal, trying to go further and trying to see something, trying to produce something real. With this, you ain't doing that. You putting the brake on, like, okay, that's enough. Hold it. Okay, I thought I wanted to know this, but I don't really want to know this. Slow down. If you saw the last movie with Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, if you saw that movie, it was a white lady in there who was Russian or something, and she said, and she went into the alien thing in South America there, where the crystal skulls turned into the alien, and she said, I want to know everything. And the alien was looking like this, and she said, I want to know everything. And the alien did this. Oh, you want to know everything, huh? And then 2 or 3 seconds into it, she's like, that's enough. I don't want to see anymore. Cut it off. Turn it off. Take it. And the next thing you know, she shot up into the air and was gone. Because this is real. This ain't the other thing. If you say you want it, this will deliver. And it's going to deliver every time. It's not the fake stuff. There's Oishi Sensei, the guy who started Reiki. This is another guy whom martial artists know. He is Yoshiba, the founder of Aikido. He's up on the same mountain, the Karama Mountain, eating mushrooms, and came up with Aikido. And I can go on and on and on and on and on and show you mushroom after mushroom, but you have to take it in your mouth and you have to chew it yourself. You have to have the courage to be able to do it, the courage to be able to face what you see, because it will show you your fears also. You can be a person who is, say you're a little kid, you're 9 years old. You got a brother that's 12 years old. And you know if you're 9 and you got a brother that's 12, they do stuff to you. He's going to tell you it's a monster under the bed. Now, so you want the light on all the time. I don't want to go in the bedroom by myself because it's a monster under the bed, because my 12-year-old brother told me it's a monster under the bed. So eventually you grow up. You're 20 years old. You're 30 years old. You got a family now. You're 40 years old. You got children in college. You're 45 years old. You got grandchildren. You've had a mortgage. You may have been divorced, or your wife has died, or your husband has died. And now you're a grown person, you're sophisticated. You travel to Cancun and you go around the world and you do different things. You go to conferences, you're a knowledgeable person, you may be a professor or whatever. But still in your mind, you're that 9-year-old little boy or little girl, and you still are scared of what's under the bed. But you can't say that even to yourself. But in reality, you still fear what's under that bed. You take this mushroom, and whatever's under that bed that you was afraid of is going to come out of the bed, and you have to face it. And you have to get past it for your own spiritual maturity, because you're going to see stuff here that they said was impossible. You're going to see stuff that they said didn't exist. Every and anything that you see, because these people that do these movies, they taking these mushrooms. That's how they producing these doggone movies. Prometheus and the Predator and the Alien and all that kind of stuff. They doing these things because they see them. The Tengu Taki mushroom is what produces the Black Panther. This is the Black Panther from the TV program. And in this class, this is the series that they aired in Australia because they didn't want to air it in the United States. They didn't want to air it in the United States because these people see this stuff as not just cartoons, because it ain't cartoons for kids. And they were mad because the Black Panther beat up Captain America. Just like the Aryans were mad and didn't go see Thor because Heimdall was played by an African, the guy who guarded the Rainbow Bridge, because they don't see this as play. We see it as cartoons. We see it as entertainment. It ain't cartoons and entertainment. It's a series and a way of control. They didn't want our children to see the Black Panther beat up Captain America and everybody else because of the technology of Wakanda that the Africans had, who were undefeated, and the United States couldn't do nothing with Wakanda because of the Black Panther. These are books, just supportive material in my talk, Mushroom Wisdom, Mushrooms and Mankind, dealing with the impact of mushrooms on human consciousness and religion. Archaic Revival, dealing with archaicism, things from the old school stuff. Psilocybin Mushroom Growers Guide, Plants of the Gods. This doesn't just deal with mushrooms, it deals with many different plants of the gods, like the Torah, which is Jimson weed. Now, if you want to be a dark sorcerer, you want to be Darth Vader, you want to be a evil wizard, the Torah is what you do. If it don't kill you, it'll deliver. You'll be just like one of the Sith.
Wow.
The Mushroom Cultivator, Mycelium Running, The Elixir. These are just books in supportive. Shroom, A Cultural History of the Magic Mushroom, Annie Lecture. I lectured with Annie Lecture last year in the UK. I'll be going back to the UK next month for the month lecturing around, giving you the same, well, they won't get as much as you all got, and this is the short version, but I'll be lecturing in the UK next month. Some of the colleges and things there, True Hallucinations. These are just books that support, this one I want to go through real quick, The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross by John M. Allegro. Allegro was put on to decipher the Dead Sea Scrolls, and what they told them when they first got the Dead Sea Scrolls was, anything that supports our version of Christianity, we will let out. Anything that does not support our version of Christianity, we will suppress. He let it out and they jumped on him with both feet and hounded him the rest of his life because he said that early Christianity was a mushroom cult, and they went ballistic on him. This is part of it. This is mushroom cap and stem, but it goes into this. If you know about John Mack and abduction cases and dealing with crop circles and all that kind of stuff, it's all hooked into the mushroom. This is the last, next to the last slide. This is a lecture I did last year in the UK in Hackney. And this is the last slide. It is replete with mushroom symbology, DNA information, and all that kind of stuff. I open myself up for questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Right here, brother.
Thank you, Bubba. That was amazing. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
I
I'm
get
sorry.
you next.
So, of all your experiences with it, personal experiences with it, what would you say was your most profound insights or effects for you in your life?
That there's no death. Because people say that and they talk about it, and our religious systems talk about that it's something more. But we don't really believe that, you know. But this actually gets rid of your fear of death, a fear that we have, that until we have an actual experience that substantiates that there is none, we're still in the limbo. Yeah, well, maybe it might be, you know. But I found that was the most profound, that there is no death. And what they did at Johns Hopkins University a couple of years ago, they did a study where they gave psilocybin to stage 4 cancer patients, who were the people who said, okay, you got 2 weeks to live, you're going to die in 2 weeks, the cancer went all over your body, there's nothing we can do, you're ready to die. And those people were having death anxiety. So what they did was they gave them psilocybin, and it took away their death anxiety. Some of them laughed and said, well, if that's all I got to worry about, then it ain't no big deal. I can die, you know, and not have this thing on top of me. And that's a study, you can Google it. It's from Johns Hopkins University, and that's why now they're moving towards utilizing psilocybin and these types of things, which is the constituent in the mushroom.
So, are you saying that? Remember our earlier conversation?
Yeah.
Where you said that you'll believe somebody is immortal when you see that they've lived past 150.
Well, no,
But
well,
or you mean it in this aspect of?
well, 150 ain't immortal. That's just long.
Well,
that's just
right.
long lived according to what we're doing now.
But you were saying that
immortal
you
would be, immortal.
But you were saying that you didn't believe that somebody could live past 150 until you see it. With
No,
your
no,
own eyes.
I'm not in the vein of not believing a person can last past 150. I'm saying that these systems that are saying that we have to do this and thus and so, and that they are producing immortals, are disingenuous. In other words, I haven't seen any 150-year people coming from these Taoist immortals and yogic masters and things like that. You ain't showing me no 300 and 400 people. You got the one guy who claims to be 1,500, but they didn't even have no records then.
So you referring to like the idea that like because your physical body perishes, that the spirit lives on, or you talking about within your physical body? In other words, in your profound insight that you experience.
I'm saying that there's no death in both, but we have to see. We were genetically manipulated to die quickly.
I agree.
Because see, number one, you don't get any sense. You don't even start making dendrite connections where your brain starts to function at a basic level until you're 50 years old. That's when your dendrite connections start to really connect. You don't get any sense till you're about 70 years old.
Really?
And by that time, you're already breaking down. Because see, the immortality genes and things like that don't kick in till about 150. So what they did was, see, this whole, these L's, the L's, the Yahweh, Jehovah, them folks, they genetically manipulated human beings because what did they say in the Bible that they got from Mesopotamia, from Anunnaki? They said, they have eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they have become like us. Let us push them out, lest they eat from the tree of life and become immortal. So the thing was to stop man and woman from becoming immortal, because if you're immortal, then you have enough time to be able to figure out what's going on and then challenge those who want to impose their will on you. And that's what has happened. So you have to get to 150 for them immortality genes to click on. I think that we're at the point now. We're at the point, 2012 is the time. Everything that went before was only a precursor to right now, where we can re-engineer ourselves into turning those genes on through the organic singularity of the mushroom, so that we can then get to the 150, turn on the immortality gene, and then walk off at a point when we want to. Because it ain't about staying here physically forever, because that would be boring, or that would be kind of crazy. I mean, we have trouble staying with one another for 3 years. What you married to your wife, y'all been married 1,500 years. You still, squeezing the toothpaste off.
Not 1,500 years.
Just take 1,500 years. You've been with your spouse 10 years, and you can hardly stand them now. 1,500 years. I'm just kidding, but what I'm saying is that. No, we're at the crossroads now of being able to do that. So I'm not saying that we can't do that, or I'm opposed to that knowledge. I'm just saying that these things that we've been talking about and doing, and people have been trying to sell us, is not it. It's just like the whole concept, the whole God concept of, the big being up in the sky that is looking over everybody that we pray to or whatever. I'm not a believer in that. I know that there are other powerful beings in the universe, but there ain't no God. The God thing is, I'm open to the information, but I know that what these people are talking about and what they've been giving us for the last 6,000 years is not it. If somebody come around the corner and say, well, Jesus is around the corner and he's doing miracles, an atheist would say, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not going around the corner. I don't want to even deal with that kind of nonsense. I'm a person who's going to say, oh, if Jesus is around the corner doing miracles, let me go around the corner and see if Jesus is around it, because maybe I've been wrong all this time. Because I say it ain't no Jesus. There never was no Jesus. But if you got him around the corner, I want to go see. So I'm open to the information, but I know what they're talking about and what they've been talking about for the last 6,000 years is not it. I think it's beyond the comprehension of us at this particular time, because I think that we and everything is the same thing. And what that everything is searching to understand and know itself, because it doesn't know where it comes from. If you know everything and you've always been here, you want to know where you come from. Yes, and then I get back to you.
Yeah. You were talking about the Black Panther.
Yes.
And I read something related to the secret society in Nigeria with
The leopard?
the leopard. Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to know, is that related to the leopard?
It's kind of like the same society, but the Black Panther is like a higher level of that.
Because part of it, where during the, I think it's the early colonial period,
Yes.
where this guy ended up getting a bullet through his heart, and he was able to save himself by, understanding the level of what he was supposed to do, because he belonged to the leopard man.
Yes, yeah. Well, they were so-called demonized because of the colonial period.
Yeah,
they were actually
demonized them.
fighting against the imperialists, and of course, that means that you're the bad guy when it comes to history. And I'd written an article on them.
They were able
talking
to
about-
get into the flowers of plants and disappear through the flowers of the plant.
Yes, all of that.
And that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's that Pantherina mushroom. Sister here, and then we go over here. Yeah.
I was trying to keep up. What's the difference between the red and the blue mushroom?
The two different chemicals. The blue mushroom is actual brain chemistry outside of the brain. It's brain chemistry going in nature. The red mushroom is a different chemical structure. It's muscarol, and it's not brain chemistry. It's different. It's a bit harsher. It's not the original one, but it's one that was adopted because many times the mushroom that you had is pan-tropical, but people went other places, and they tried what was close to what they were doing. It's just like ayahuasca. Mushrooms taught the people how to make ayahuasca, because you took the mushrooms. It's like George Washington Carver. Most people don't know that George Washington Carver was one of the nation's greatest mycologists, which was that person who studied mushrooms. The way he talked to plants is because he ate mushrooms. And the plants told him, when you eat the mushrooms, the plants talk. Like I said, the trees sit out here, eat some mushrooms, talk to the trees, talk to the grass, talk to the flowers, you know. They'll tell you what they are. Out of 100, if this was in Nicaragua or something like that, you'd have 400,000 or 500,000 different plants out here. How do you find two plants that you can put together and get DMT out of it? And just looking at all these different plants, how you know this plant and that plant over there you put together and boil it 6 hours is going to give you a particular experience? It's because you take the mushroom and this plant say, "Hey, I'm the one you're supposed to get." And the one over there say, "Hey, I'm the one you're supposed to put with him." And so you take them two, put it together, and you say, "How long is we supposed to boil 6 hours?" That's how they did it. And then later on, that's how the ayahuasqueros synergize medicine for people. You take a little bit of the leaf and you put it in the ayahuasca, and the ayahuasca pulls it apart, gives you what is needed to how much the dosage, what are we supposed to do with it? You're supposed to grate it or you're supposed to boil it or whatever. And you take the ayahuasca with a little bit of this plant in it, and the ayahuasca will tell you by communicating with this plant what's inside of the plant and what it's good for. That's how people found out about their particular herbs. Because if you walk around here, it's poisonous stuff, this stuff you eat is going to make your hair stand on end and everything else. How you know which one to do it? Because the plants told you, because you was eating mushrooms. And then when the mushroom becomes scarce, the mushroom leaves the plant with you so that you can utilize it in the absence of it being there. Sister, then you go.
Places like in Africa where they don't have the pine trees, how do they get to that elevation?
Well, the blue mushroom doesn't grow on pine trees; it grows on cow dung.
So they
don't need the pine trees. They just need some cows around, or bulls. I mean, water buffaloes, or
Hippo.
like I showed you,
Hippo.
hippos, or giraffe, or anything that's in Africa that go around that has a double-chambered stomach, four-chambered stomach, or whatever, undulant animal. It'll grow on.
Brother,
Yes, brother. Then you next. After.
Did you go
watch yourself.
for your martial arts learning, teaching? Did you go to the mountain like you were speaking of earlier?
Black Panther Mountain.
Oh, I'm not part of the Black Panther Society. No, not that one.
What
I'm part of
knowledge-
some others.
Have you gotten some heavy knowledge from the mushroom?
Yes,
What's
definitely.
the most heaviest thing you think you've learned? Or-
Well, it's difficult to say what the heaviest thing you're going to learn, because it's the way I do my martial art is some of the heaviest thing I learned, because you learn, you can have access to all the teachers who have come before in your particular line of lineage, and the things that are not only of this world but off world. I went to a yoga conference in Ghana a couple of years ago. Well, actually, I wasn't going to a yoga conference in Ghana. I just happened to be there. They was having a yoga conference in Ghana. And we talked to the guy who was lecturing, and he was talking about the planet or dimension of Fae. And he said, in Fae, there is a planet of musical instruments that haven't been brought to Earth yet. Because the djembe, in its deteriorated form now, because djembe was war drum. They used to execute people with that drum. Black! Like that, and the person dropped dead. Fire used to come out of the back of them drums. They had shrines in them drums that the drums lived in their own house. But it's degenerated now to everybody come out. Every kid come out of Senegal is a djembe master, and you got people who are not part of the drumming. I'm not a drummer, so I don't mess with the drum because I'm not a drummer. You're not supposed to. Just because I like it don't mean I have to play it. I like to hear it, but I don't play them because I'm not part of that lineage and that family. So you got people who are not part of the lineage family playing it. So they've took the old drums and they put them in them houses in the Senegambia region, and they don't bring them drums out no more, and they just give them stupid little tourist drums out and let people play them, those drums. But the real drums are locked up in them houses there because they have the shrines and they're deadly. So they brought those drums from another dimension, another galaxy, another solar system, and carved them out of wood here where they're made of light in those other dimensions. It's the same thing with weapons and martial arts style. You go there and you see those beings doing those different forms and different ways of movement and things like that, and you bring that stuff back and you best you can try to pattern it and parrot it on this dimensional realm. Yes, sister.
When can you get up?
Ask your mother
Come here, Shelby.
or your father. You should be able to get up.
You can get up.
You guys are
Yeah.
wonderful. Get your blanket. You guys are phenomenal.
About
children.
when you eat, those flying things come out. What if they don't like you?
Then you're gonna have a long night.
Say that. What's that? What's the
I said you're gonna have a long night, meaning that you're gonna have some battle.
The goblins.
Yes.
Oh,
So, what was your hallucination when you?
Many
had
different experiences.
I've had
Yeah,
many
experiences.
different experiences where I've seen people with birds' heads and human bodies, and I've seen galaxies being born and different planets and places where the water is orange and the sky is green and things like that with 4 or 5 suns, And then I've been in places that have been so dark that it's you can't even describe it. Triple thick darkness, so dark that no light exists. I've been in those places also. Yeah.
Like, how do you what was your experience like after the hallucinations?
When you came down.
Well,
Do you
I get up and eat breakfast and do what I got to do for the day. It's only 8 hours. Then you come back to zero. But then you can use the information to be able to
Can you recall?
in your life. Yeah.
And you don't get messed up where one of those extra ones stays and you're one of those crazy people talking to you.
Oh,
You can't come back, so to speak.
no. If you crazy beforehand, you may not want to take it. You may not want to take them. But we've had people who are on serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Xanax and things like that, and we were kind of cautious saying that you go out regularly. But the thing is that those people who have taken them, who have had on Prozac and Xanax and those type of things, have felt that they felt for the first time regular.
Oh,
Really?
okay.
Because you
of
purge, right? You said you purge, right?
Well, you don't all. Everybody doesn't purge. It's not like ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is called a purge.
Oh, that's the one you said was the purge.
Yeah, this
Gotcha.
one is. This one. Some people throw up, some people don't. Some people never throw up. Some people throw up sometimes. It's a lot of factors that go in with that. It goes whether you fast that day, whether you how the distance between you eating and eating the mushrooms, things like that. It's a lot of factors in there on that whole
I
thing.
have a question.
Yes.
Like, you know how you said that many different, like, famous artists or martial artists took the mushrooms and stuff, and like that's how they invented it.
Some, yeah.
Like, where did you like get the information from?
Where do you get the information to invent the thing?
No, like, where did you learn that from?
Oh, well, that's part of what I do. That's part of martial art is what I do. So I know a lot of the folks who are part of the inventive phase of things and the experiential phase of things and how they relate to their particular styles and the history of particular styles and things like that. So you do cross-reference martial arts and cross-reference things from how people learned and how their style was invented, you know, because like, say, Wing Chun was created by a woman who saw it as a dream. The praying mantis saw the style was invented for a guy was observing a praying mantis fighting a bird and different things like that.
But I have a question. Like, so like if like they saw like, I know that like many Chinese martial arts or Japanese martial arts, they study different animals to get their form of martial arts. Like you said, the drunken master and stuff like that,
Yeah,
right?
well, that was more Chinese than Japanese.
So like why, like how come like couldn't they just figured it out like that without taking that?
Some were, you know. Nothing is all inclusive, you know. A lot of the modern styles are done that way. These were the older forms. You know, many modern forms weren't, but some, like Aikido, went to an older way of creating a particular style. You know.
But for your style, did you like take the mushroom to get into your style to become a master? Or you are a master in your style?
Well,
how you
I don't
describe
like that,
yourself?
I don't like that word master, because
Okay.
if I was a master, I wouldn't have had to catch the bus down here. I'd have just, you know.
You took the magic off.
I'd have been here. But no, it's part of the part of the learning. At a certain stage of it, they give you the mushroom and you do the study then. It's kind of like you learn certain things with your teacher, then your teacher gives you the mushroom, and then you can go with your teacher's teacher or your teacher in the realm of learning. So if I was your student, you know, I've been studying for quite a while, you give me the mushroom for me to experience the other realms of what we're doing, and then you take some and I take some, we both go, and you show me certain things on that level or something like that. So,
I mean, I don't want to go all over the place, but now, by you making the statement, you get taken back to the secret society with
this is all secret society stuff.
with Ronke and his son into the flower, and they went together, and then they came back out, and his son was very frightened when they went into the flower. When they went into the bud of the plant and disappeared into the bud of the plant. Yeah. When his father did it first, he get well frightened, you know, and I had to talk to him, and I see that's why I didn't tell you all the time, because he wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
And then they do it and went together and come back. Yeah, but that was just
that's the same, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. This is all secret society stuff, and that's all part of what goes on. Yes, sister.
Okay. I have a question. I'm gonna give two scenarios. I used to listen to a radio station called WBAI some years ago, early 2000s, and they had like a show, and it appeared like the people on the show were like Native Americans, because they would talk about going out on retreats and doing different things in Native American culture. And I remember one story they had. They said a person wanted to come on a trip but couldn't make it. But then I think it was a wolf appeared, or I think it was a wolf that appeared. And everybody seen a wolf, but the wolf was calm. You know, just slowly walked around the people, but didn't bother anybody. So when he came back from that trip, the person who didn't come, he said, "Did you all see me? I was there. I was the wolf that appeared."
Yeah.
And that's one scenario. Then another scenario is my family's from Namibia. And I didn't see it with my own eyes, but my father told me that my relatives, like close relatives, transform into animals. And like when I visit them, I don't want to say,
Can you do that trick for me?
Yeah. Like, can I mention? Somebody think they do this with mushroom, but I don't know how to ask them, or
Well, just ask them. You know, they may not tell you unless you was initiated in society, but they may tell you. I don't know.
Could I mention mushrooms to him?
You mention mushrooms. See what they say.
But from my own memory, that I remember a time my father was blown away. You don't want it to deal with this one. He said this one has turned into that one, and turned into different animals. And he was telling that don't even ride them because they could come across the water. My father was telling that.
Yeah, he said they could travel in the atmosphere. They could travel across continents.
All of that, yeah. That's what we've been talking about all night. Yeah.
What style of martial arts do you practice?
I practice Saki, Lambiji, Buri.
Where's that come from?
Huh?
Japanese style.
No, those are African.
African? African style? African style? Yeah. Have you heard of Madu?
Mardu?
Madu.
Yeah, that's Indian.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Mardu. Yeah. That's Mardu Adil. That's like Indian pressure points. India.
Really Indian.
Yeah, Indian. Not the indigenous folks here.
That was practice.
So how would you be able to use that in this particular dimension after you've had that experience? Will you be able to integrate back into normalcy after because after you've done it, you've closed your eyes and you're going on your journey. Because I think on one of the calls you says everyone has an individual experience based on, again, you talked about the lineage.
Yeah.
Does it have something to do with your past life? Does it get you a little bit more clearer on life purpose, that kind of thing?
It is your will and desire is much part of it.
Okay.
You can integrate it into your life as much as you desire to. A lot of times the things that go on don't so much gel with this world, but there are things that you can pull back if you desire that. You'd have to go there. You see, it's still an art to it. It's still work. It's
Right.
not a free ride. You
Right.
still have to. Okay, tonight I want to
Make your intentions.
I want to make my intentions. You know, I want to do this and thus. I don't want to do anything else. I want to do thus and thus. Because but integrate it back in your life. Yeah, you can. There are many things you can integrate into your life, and no, you don't get stuck over there.
Does it affect the physical body? I heard you say something about the cell. Does it affect the physical body?
Oh, I was
in any
saying the
way?
shape. I was just telling him that
And
the
the
shape
DNA?
shifting hurts.
Oh,
So
When you do that.
have you ever been? You've been involved in shifting and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Caribbean, I come from the Caribbean. A few of us here from the Caribbean, and in the Caribbean we have a lot of stories where people turn into animals.
Yeah.
You know, and you talking about shape shifting, you will be considered to be an Uberman.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the Caribbean, you'll be considered to be an Uberman because you could do things that other people can't do, as it would say.
Yeah.
Now we hear about stories where people turn into animals and do good or bad to other people. And we have a lot of those talks in the Caribbean. Many people know. I mean, we have no real proof except they say that. I know about this guy who turned into a pig. And
The stories.
Yeah, and they beat the pig up.
They call them tales of power.
Yeah.
But that's why, like I said, we want to deal with the actual being in it, not tales about it. Do you have a question? Or you just stretching your arm?
No,
I had a question.
oh, I was
Okay,
asking.
good. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I switched.
Well, you asked
seats.
your own question.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask the question. Okay, if we take it, will it reveal anything about 2012 and what should be done?
Well, the thing about 2012 is that you should take the mushroom. That's what it's about. It's about see the thing is that even though it's a personal experience, it's also a group experience. You know, it's about a resonance frequency. It's about there's a guy in London. What's his name? He talks about morphic resonance. I can't think of his name, but the resonation of form. The 100th monkey theory. You know, you had these monkeys on Madagascar, and they had these potatoes, and they'd be on the beach, and they had to clean the sand off the potatoes because it's gritty. So they'd sit there and clean the sand off the potatoes by hand. One little female monkey took her potato, looked at it, looked at the sand on the beach, and threw a potato in the water. And it cleaned the potato without having to sit there and pick every little grain of sand off of it. And the little monkey took the potato, ate it because it was clean, and then it had a salty taste because it came out of salt water, so it tastes better. So this little female monkey went to the older monkeys to try to show them to throw their potatoes in the water, and they were just, you know, get out of here. You don't know what you're doing. This is the way you're supposed to clean a potato. You know, you see you're young, you're silly, you don't know what to do. You know, we know how to clean potatoes. So what happened was she showed all the young monkeys how to clean their potatoes by throwing it in the water. The old monkeys kept cleaning their potatoes, grit by grit by grit by grit. But when you got a saturation point of enough of the young monkeys cleaning their potatoes by throwing them in the water, the new monkeys who were born started coming out the womb. They came out of the womb throwing their potatoes in the water. And what they say with morphic resonance is that when you get a saturation point of enough beings doing the same thing, it raises the whole bar of the consciousness of everyone around. That's what takes the next. That's what brings it to the next level. It's not just an individual doing it here and an individual doing it there, and trying to get somebody else to do it. It's when we get enough people doing this thing that we could change this whole. We change this whole thing. You can shift the whole thing
for our children's sake and their children.
Shift the whole thing like that with a thought. You know.
So what time we get started now?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's that?
That's what I say the total 2012 is. And the thing is, it's our legacy. It's not nothing that we're trying to put together. It's been around for hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years. And thank you very much for listening. And if you have any other questions, you can still ask me questions because I'll be here.